Aaraf 1 by Edgar Allan Poe. Footnote 1. A star was discovered by Tycho Brahe, which appeared suddenly in the heavens in a few days, a brilliancy surpassing that of Jupiter, then as suddenly disappeared, and has never been seen since. Return to footnote. Mark footnote 2. On Santa Morialim Ducadia. Return footnote 3. Sappho. Return footnote 4. This flower is much noticed by Leeuwenhoek and Tournefort. The bee, feeding upon its blossom, becomes intoxicated. Return footnote 5. Clichiath chrysanthemum peruvianum. Or, to employ a better-known term, the turnsel which turns continually towards the sun covers itself like Peru, the country from which it comes, with dewy clouds which cool and refresh its flowers during the most violent heat of the day. B. de St. Pierre. Return footnote 6. There is cultivated in the King's Garden at Paris a species of serpentine aloe, without prickles, whose large and beautiful flower exhales a strong odor of the vanilla during the time of its expansion, which is very short. It does not blow till towards the month of Juillet, then perceive it gradually open its petals, expand them, fade, and die. St. Pierre. Return footnote 7. There is found in the Rhone a beautiful lily of the Vallisnerian kind. Its stem will stretch to the length of 3 or 4 feet, thus preserving its head above water in the swellings of the river. Return footnote 8. The hyacinth. Return footnote 9. It is a fiction of the Indians that Cupid was first seen floating in one of these down the river Ganges, and that he still loves the cradle of his childhood. Return footnote 10. And golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. Rev. St. John. Return footnote 11. The humanitarians held that God was to be understood as having really a human form. V.D. Clarke's Sermons Vol. I. page 26. Vol. Edit. The drift of Milton's argument leads him to employ language which would appear at first sight to verge upon their doctrine, but it will be seen immediately that he guards himself against the charge of having adopted one of the most ignorant errors of the Dark Ages of the Church. Dr. Sumner's Notes on Milton's Christian Doctrine. This opinion, in spite of many testimonies to the contrary, could never have been very general. Andius, a Syrian of Mesopotamia, was condemned for the opinion as heretical. He lived in the beginning of the 4th century. His disciples were called anthropomorphites. V.D. Dupin. Among Milton's minor poems are these lines: Dicite sacrorum presides nemorum dicere, etc., quis ille, primus cujus ex imagine natura solus, finxit humanum genus eternus incorruptus quavius polo, unusc, et universus exemplar Dei. And afterwards, non cui profundum cecitas lumen dedit durcus, augur vidit hunc alto sinu, etc. Return footnote 12. Seltsamen touchter Jarvis sanum scarskain der fantasy goth. Return footnote 13. Sightless too small to be seen leg. Return footnote 14. I have often noticed a peculiar movement of the fireflies. They will collect in a body and fly off from a common center into innumerable radii. Return footnote 15. The Rasa, or the Racia, the island mentioned by Seneca, which in a moment arose from the sea to the eyes of astonished mariners. Return footnote 16. Some star which from the ruined roof of shacked Olympus by mischance did fall. Milton. Return footnote 17. Voltaire, in speaking of Persepolis, says, G canais by en l'admiration, quinspirant ces rohinsmais un palais erige, opide d'une chaîne de roches sterilsputil, etre un chef d'oeuvre des arts. Return footnote 18. O the wave Ula de Guissi is the Turkish appellation, but on its own shores it is called Balir Loth or Olmatana. There were undoubtedly more than 2 cities engulfed in the Dead Sea. In the valley of Siddim were 5, Adrar, Zebun, Zor, Sodom, and Gomorrah. Stephen of Byzantium mentions 8 and Strabo 13 engulfed, but the last is out of all reason. It is said Tacitus, Strabo, Josephus, Daniel of St. Saba, now Mondral, Troilo di Arvia, that after an excessive drought, the vestiges of columns, walls, etc., are seen above the surface. At any season such remains may be discovered by looking down into the transparent lake, and at such distance as would argue the existence of many settlements in the space now usurped by the asphaltites. Return footnote 19. Irako, Chaldea. Return footnote 20. I have often thought I could distinctly hear the sound of the darkness as it stole over the horizon. Return footnote 21. Fairies use flowers for their charactery. Merry Wives of Windsor. Return footnote 22. In Scripture is this passage: The sun shall not harm thee by day, nor the moon by night. It is perhaps not generally known that the moon in Egypt has the effect of producing blindness to those who sleep with the face exposed to its rays, to which circumstances the passage evidently alludes. Return footnote 23. The albatross is said to sleep on the wing. Return footnote 24. I met with this idea in an old English tale, which I am now unable to obtain and quote from memory. The Varai essence, and as it were springe head and origin of all music, is the very pleasant sound, which the trees of the forest do make, when they grow. Return footnote 25. The wild bee will not sleep in the shade if there be moonlight. The rhyme in the verse, as in one about 60 lines before, has an appearance of affectation. It is however imitated from Sir W. Scott, or rather from Claude Halcrane, whose mouth I admired its effect. Oh, were there an island though ever so wild where woman might smile, and no man be beguiled, etc. Return footnote 26. With the Arabians there is a medium between heaven and hell, where men suffer no punishment, but yet do not attain that tranquil and even happiness which they suppose to be characteristic of heavenly enjoyment. Unno rompido suno un dia pur olegre liber quiera, libredur mord zelo de odio de esperanzade, resilo Luis Ponce de Leon sorrow, is not excluded from Al-Aaraf, but it is that sorrow which the living love to cherish for the dead, and which in some minds resembles the delirium of opium, the passionate excitement of love, and the buoyancy of spirit attendant upon intoxication, are its less holy pleasure, rest price of which to those souls who make choice of Al-Aaraf as their residence after life is final death and annihilation. Return footnote 27. There be tears of perfect moan wept for thee in Helicon. Milton. Return footnote 28. It was entire in 1687, the most elevated spot in Athens. Return footnote 29. Shadowing more beauty in their airy brows than have the white breasts of the Queen of Love. Marlowe. Return footnote 30. Pennon for pinion. Milton. Return note